A's and B's and C's until 7th grade. Anyhow, comparing my penmanship to the right-handed kindergartners wasn't remotely fair when you think about it. I was the only lefty in my class. My teacher had to procure special left-handed scissors for me, but I could never make them work. I ended up using the right-handed scissors instead. I read somewhere that every year, 25 left-handed people die using products designed for right-handed people. Maybe even scissors. The man with the clipboard led me up the stairs, 2 flights, and down a hall to this room. I wanted to ask about Agnes. I wanted to know whether Jonah was with her. She'd been in the hospital for nearly a week by the time they brought me here. Plenty of time for Jonah to come. Maybe he was holding her hand. Maybe he'd lean over and kiss her forehead. I never saw them really kiss. Jonah said Agnes was shy about doing stuff like that in front of me, even though she and I were roommates and best friends. Agnes's parents arrived less than 48 hours after Agnes was admitted to the hospital. I was sitting by her bed when they got there. After that, the doctors wouldn't let me back into her room because I wasn't family. At the time, I assumed that since her real family had arrived to sit at her bedside, the doctors didn't feel the need to bend whatever rules they'd bent so that Agnes wouldn't be alone. Though, she was in a coma, so it was impossible to say whether or not she knew she wasn't alone. Agnes was still in the ICU when her parents arrived, and the hospital only allowed visitors into the ICU 2 at a time, and Agnes's parents almost never left her. With Agnes gone, I spent a few nights by myself in our dorm room, where we'd been living together since the summer program started, nearly 2 months before. I took taxis back and forth to the hospital each day. I considered checking into a hotel closer to the hospital, maybe the same hotel where Agnes's parents were staying, then decided against it. But they never let me back into Agnes's room. I can still picture how she looked the last time I saw her. That is, before her parents arrived. 1 tube going down her throat, tape over her lips to hold it in place, an IV stuck into her left arm that was attached to a plastic bag full of liquid. Medication? Fluids? Nutrients? Hanging on a hook above her bed. She'd told me once that she hated needles. At least she'd been unconscious when they stuck her this time. Her blonde hair was only a shade or 2 darker than the white sheets on her bed. By the time they sent me here, Agnes was out of the ICU, but she was still in a coma. Still had that tube taped to her mouth. They said it wasn't safe to move her to a hospital closer to home in her condition. When the doctors asked me what happened, I told them. Light as a feather, stiff as a board. Never have I ever. Truth or dare. When they arrived, Agnes's parents asked me what happened, so I told them, too. And of course, I told the police when they asked. Agnes's mother had never heard of Light as a Feather, so I had to explain how the game worked. 1 person lies on the ground while everyone else gathers around, putting their fingers beneath her and chanting, "Light as a feather, stiff as a board," until the girl, or boy, but in this case, girl, in the middle levitates. Mrs. Smith looked so alarmed that you'd have thought she actually believed the game was some sort of satanic ritual that caused its players to float through the air. I explained that you can't really play Light as a Feather with only 2 people. That of course no one really levitates. The group simply lifts someone and sets her back down. I told Mrs. Smith that wasn't what had happened to Agnes. I said we switched to Never Have I Ever, each of us trying to trick the other into confessing a secret. But that got boring, so eventually we started playing Truth or Dare. I explained how Truth or Dare worked, in case Mrs. Smith didn't know that either. You take turns asking each other truth or dare. If you pick truth, you have to honestly answer whatever question you're asked. If you pick dare, you have to do whatever task you're given. The day after that, they brought me here. I didn't put up a fight, didn't kick and scream and protest my innocence like people do in the movies. I came calmly and quietly, because I knew this was all a misunderstanding that would get sorted out.